Okay, so I was chatting with somebody who was like, "Hey, I'm super all in on my osteoporosis plan," and I was like, "That's so great. I wonder if I am all in on my osteoporosis plan." And it's halfway through the year. Um, Particularly for people who like the kind of the New Year's fresh start thing. Halfway through the year, it's an interesting time to assess whether, you know, you are still, yes, this is being recorded for sure. So, Ronnie, just make sure your volume is up. I don't know, I can't help you. Um, it's an interesting time to take a look at whether you're sticking with the plan that you had and how it's working for you. So these are 5 questions, and I asked them of myself, and I'm going to go through them and I'm going to tell you kind of how it's working for me. But what I would love is I want you to think about them for you. I want you to think about them for yourself and for kind of future reference so that you can, because we've got 6 more months, right, of this year, can you really dig in and make sure that the goals that you set for yourself or the things that you feel like you're doing are really happening and happening as effectively and as efficiently as possible. So the first question is, if someone looked at how I spent my time, my energy, and my money so far this year over the last 6 months, would they know that I'm all in? I'm all in on dealing with my osteoporosis. And so I really thought about it. So I want you to think about it. You can take down some notes. Things that you could think about would be, in terms of time, are you committing to your workout plan? How much time are you spending on exercise and movement practices that we know are really good for people with osteoporosis? So I was thinking about, all right, so what's my time? I have committed to this full on heavy lifting training session once a week with my trainer. So I've invested money in my trainer because I want to do this with good form. I want to learn to do it well. I want, good safety cueing when I'm pushing myself. I know that balance, although it is a less sexy thing than lifting heavy weights, not falling flat on your ass is also really sexy. So I am continuing to commit to my balance training. And I spend a fair amount of time and energy reviewing current research on osteoporosis, exercise, and movement. So I feel like, and I live a life that is not limited by my osteoporosis. And so when we think about time, energy, and money, would they know I'm all in? Like, being all in my opinion, does not mean making your life smaller and living with fear and living with, kind of a societal message that we are less than, that we are not, hi guys, that we are not as strong, as powerful, as invigorated, as whatever, compared to people who don't have osteoporosis. So for me, being all in also means modeling for the people around me that my osteoporosis does not stop me from doing the things that I love to do. So, it's live aboard the sailboat season. So my husband and I are living on the boat Saturday through Tuesday. And then we come back to the house so I can work out of the studio Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I feel like I'm pretty all in. I feel like I am making some pretty good steps forward and continuing to progress my weight training, my balance training, my mobility training, and I am continuing to show the people around me that having osteoporosis is not a stopper. So, as we go through, I can't promise. There's a lot of people, we're not so bad. If you have questions as we go along, you are absolutely more than welcome to pop them in the comments. And if I see them as we go along, I'm happy to answer them. We can have a little conversation. So, what do you think? Take your notes, just ponder in your brain. If you think about how you have expended your time, your energy, your attention, your focus, your conviction, your mindset, your money, your whatever over the last 6 months, and somebody who didn't know you looked at how you were doing those things, would they say, wow, that person is all in on making sure that osteoporosis does not limit or diminish their life? So you can ponder on that. And if anybody's, as I said, if you've got comments, you can feel free to pop them in. For those of you who are on Facebook, there are many more people on Instagram, so I'm tending to look at this other camera, but I'm paying attention to you too, I promise. So question number 2. With 6 months to go, because we're only halfway through the year, all I'm considering, my doctor told me to go home and be careful. This is so frustrating. I mean, the problem, yes, of course we want to avoid fractures. We want to be careful in the sense that we don't want fractures. But the problem with this messaging of be careful is A, it makes us feel frail and fragile, and B, it tends to really limit what we do. And doing less is not helpful. It's a use it or lose it situation with our muscles, with our balance, with our coordination, with our endurance, with our agility, with our bones. And so it's not enough information. So the person who said that, Letty, I think, send me a direct message later after this is done. And I have some resources for you that can maybe help you feel like you can be both careful and also proactive and strong, because that's totally possible. So, question number 2. With 6 months to go, if I continue to do what I've done for the last 6 months, where will I be? So for me, the big thing that I have added into my life is working towards heavier lifting. So I'm working on deadlifting, I'm working on back squats, I'm working on the exercises that were used in the Lift More trial in Australia that showed that people with osteoporosis can safely lift heavy weight and that it can be helpful for bone density. And so I have increased the amount of weight that I can lift for sure over the last 6 months. And so if I continue on the same trajectory, then I absolutely will be closer to my goal, or have achieved my goal, which is to be able to lift my own body weight, right? So I weigh 115 pounds. On a good day at this point, I'm lifting 95 pounds for my deadlift and 90 pounds on my back squats, and I would like to get up to that 115 pound mark. And if I continue on the same trajectory, on the same workouts, on the same, progress that I have so far, I feel like by the time we get to 2026, I will probably be fairly consistently lifting my own body weight. Not every day. Some days I'm more tired. Some days, for whatever reason, I have less energy, or I'm, trying to manage a back thing or a shoulder thing or whatever. But I know that the work I've done so far this 6 months has increased my strength and my capacity. So does everybody need to lift their own body weight? No, absolutely not. We definitely have research that is suggesting that regular, moderate lifting is also incredibly effective for bone density, particularly for your hips. More moderate lifting regularly and consistently, 2 to 3 times a week, and different kinds of exercise that are really targeting those hip muscles seem to be good for hip bone density. So if your DEXA scores are lower in your femoral neck, which is that bridge of bone between your thigh bone and where your leg meets your hip socket and your total hip, then you might really want to be doubling down on some hip exercise. And that might be what you're focusing on to be all in for the rest of this year. If I continue to do what I have done for the last 6 months and I don't change it, I will still be struggling a little bit to maintain a routine. My brain doesn't do routines easily, like even a little tiny bit. It is the thing I struggle with the most. I am most inclined to just kind of pop exercise and movement into my day. I'm a fitness and movement person, so that's easy for me to do, right? Before or after a session while I'm cleaning up things. I have kettlebells in my dining room. I have weights all over the house. I have stretchy bands. I have all the things. And my days are very inconsistent. So if I continue the rest of the year the way I have this part of the year, by the time January rolls around, I'm still going to be struggling a bit with a routine. And so this is, something I've been working on for 2.5, 3 years since I got my diagnosis. So I know that something needs to change about the way I'm trying to structure my routine. So some of you, especially if you're in the business world, you may have come across the start, stop, continue. I think that's what it's called. And it's a way of kind of assessing the effectiveness of what you've done at work. So I was thinking a little bit about that as I was going through these questions. What's working? What do I want to continue? Or maybe even do more of? What's not working and I need to stop, or I can stop? And what do I need to start or change? So I need to change some stuff about how I structure my routines. So maybe that's you. Maybe you love your routine and you're like super set into your pattern and you do your routines and your workouts really consistently. I am in awe of you if that's you. But maybe you're like me and you struggle a little bit more with how you're going to maintain the consistency. We know that consistency is important for us. We need to move and exercise more than people who don't have osteoporosis. And especially if you're not accustomed to doing a lot of exercise, that can be a bit daunting. So we want to remember that not everybody needs to lift heavy. So we're looking at what is challenging for you, right? So I'm working up to the point where 95 pounds is challenging, but manageable for me. You might be doing 10 pounds is challenging, but manageable for you. And so don't get caught up on a number. I mean, you can have a number as a goal for sure, but in your everyday workouts, what's most important is that you're choosing activities that are challenging, whether that's weightlifting or balance training or joint mobility or pickleball or tennis or paddleboarding or whatever it is, that you are working to a level where what you're doing is challenging enough that you could, if it's weights, that you could do 1 or 2 more repetitions with good form, but not more than that. And for some people, that might be 10 pounds. For some people, that might be 50 pounds, depending on the exercise outside the scope of this conversation, different weights for different exercises. But we want to talk about that consistency as well. So thinking about what have you done the last 6 months? How consistent have you been? What kind of progression have you seen? If you've been working on balance, for instance, can you, if you couldn't stand on one leg for more than 5 seconds in January and you've been working on your balance consistently, and now you can stand on one leg for 30 seconds, there's a pretty good chance that if you keep doing what you're doing, by the time you get to December, you're going to be able to do it for a minute, right? We want to see that progress over the course of the year. So, what have you worked on for the last 6 months? And how has it changed? And if you keep doing what you're doing, what will your future self be able to do? Whether it's weightlifting or balance training or meditating or improving your sleep or increasing your protein, right? Like, it's not all just about exercise. Sleep is important. Rest is important. Being mindful. Yes, this is absolutely being recorded. Yeah. Once this is done, I'll share it. I'll save it to my feed and you'll be able to go back and look at it whenever you like. So I started using collagen. I know that some people think it's helpful. Some people don't think it's helpful. I've decided I'm going to add collagen into my life. And so hopefully, having been using it, I've been using it for about a year now. I will continue to use it. So think about, have you changed the way you're eating? Have you added more protein? Protein's super important for bone health. Have you added, different kinds of calcium to your life so that you're, if you're a dairy eater, you're having some dairy, but you're also having oranges and almonds and salmon with the bones in it, and you're increasing the natural range of calcium. And if you've been doing that for 6 months, interesting to see how you feel about that in another 6 months. So that can be one of the things that you're writing down in your notebook. For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about 5 questions to assess how your osteoporosis plan is going. And we're kind of looking at what we've done over the last 6 months and how we will change, continue, progress, stop doing things that aren't working, add more things that are working over the next 6 months. So question number 3, if I wanted to finish 2025 overwhelmingly proud of myself, would anything need to shift for me to achieve that target? So again, pop into the comments. Is there something that you would be incredibly proud of if you achieved it by the end of this year? And so for me, that is that lifting my body weight. If I can get to the point where I can lift my own body weight in a deadlift and a back squat by the end of this year, I will be super proud of myself. No worries. You can watch the rest later. Absolutely. So you could think about, so that for me, that's an exercise thing that I would be incredibly proud of. But like I said earlier, structure is a challenge for me. And if I could, by the end of this year, have organized my life and my commitment to my schedule so that I was more consistent, I would be really, really proud of myself. That would take a lot of work on my part. Reducing your belly size. Okay, that's a valid choice. That's a valid thing to think about. It could be things like committing to and doing a workout 3 times a week. It could be you don't like the balance training. Even though we know Osteoporosis Canada says that balance training is the number one thing, and then strength training after that, because strength training can affect your bone density. Balance does not necessarily affect your bone density, but balance training is what helps us to avoid falls and fractures. And you can have very low bone density. I have very low bone density in my lumbar spine, but I've never had a fracture. My life is amazing. I feel great. I feel strong. I feel adept and competent and able, like all of that good stuff. And so balance is a thing, but it's not nearly as fun and sexy as saying, you know, I can lift heavy weights and I'm working on increasing my bone density. So maybe something that you could be really proud of would be saying, I have overcome my resistance to doing the balance training, and I am now doing really dynamic, responsive, reactive balance training. I'm not just standing on one foot. I'm standing on one foot, throwing a ball and hopping from foot to foot, and I'm doing it, you know, with my eyes closed. I don't know. You're adding layers and layers and levels of making your balance training more challenging, and that you've committed to that, and you've done it twice a week for 15 minutes at a time every week between now and December. And you could be really proud of that. You could be really proud of changing the way you eat. Like maybe you don't have naturally, by your taste and your scheduling, because, you know, eating for osteoporosis is a time-consuming process, but that you've committed to, you know, a home-cooked meal 4 times a week with a real focus on different colors of food, different textures, so that you know that you're getting lots of different nutrients naturally. And you could be really proud of that. Do 5 push-ups from the floor. That would be a great goal. And that could be something you could be really proud of. So that's the next thing to put into your little notebook. Consistently sleep, good sleep hygiene. Marilee, I am with you. I'm with you. My sleep is much better than it used to be, but it's still one of my most vulnerable. When things are challenging, my sleep tends to go to hell in a handbasket. Sometimes it goes to hell in a handbasket just because, for no reason at all. Very annoying. All right, question number 4. What are 3 things that might get in the way of me being all in, that might get in the way of me achieving this thing that I want to be really proud of, whatever that might be? And how can I support myself to get past those three obstacles? So, one of them for me is a purely physical thing. I have a shoulder issue that sometimes gets in the way, and it makes it, particularly back squats can be challenging for me. Back squats are the ones where you have a bar across your shoulders with weights on the end, or maybe not weights on the end, depending on what your weight stuff is. And then you do squats and you come up and down with this weight. And it's one of the exercises that I'm working on, but there are days when it's just too uncomfortable. It is an obstacle for increasing and progressing my weight, not because I can't manage the extra weight, but because the position is a challenge. So that's an obstacle. So what am I going to do about that? I'm working with a manual therapist. I am investing some of my time and my energy. So I'm investing time and energy and money and going to see the massage therapist who's doing some really great work for me. I am kind of doing my own physiotherapy. So I'm investing time and energy in, are they exciting movements? They are not. Are they dynamic? They are. Are they dramatic? They are not. Right? But they are the movements that I need to do. Like, here's my internal rotation on my funky side, and here is my rotation on my non-funky side, right? So I would really like to restore my mobility in my funky side. So that's a physical obstacle that I need to tend to. And it's a combination of getting resources from other people and resources for myself, time and energy and intention in what I'm doing. Another obstacle is my ongoing struggle with scheduling, and an obstacle to the kind of progression that I want to make in my strength training is that I need to be consistent about doing it more often. And so how am I going to support myself with that? I get coaching. I have not a trainer, but I have like a coach that I work with to help me organize my mindset, find my priorities, find strategies to commit to my priorities. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. D. So for me, it's a combination of my rotator cuff and my bicep tendon. It's uncomfy. I don't love it. And so I get, again, external support from a coach, and I have to put some of my own mindset and energy into making myself get up and do things when I would maybe rather be doing something else. And a third obstacle is just practical location-y type stuff. So from now until October, my husband and I, we have a 40-foot sailboat, and we spend, at this stage of the game, half the week living on the sailboat and half the week here at the house. And then in August and September, we'll probably spend most of our time, if not all of our time, living on the boat. I realize this is not a problem. This is an amazing, fantastic thing. Why is it an obstacle? Because the boat is a small space, and I don't have big heavy weights on the boat. So if my thing that I'm going to be super proud of is lifting my own body weight, I have to continue to progress the weight that I'm moving, and I struggle with consistency. And now I add the fact that I have to make an effort to get to the gym, to the place where my trainer is, to do the heavy weight work. So how am I going to manage that? That is less about support externally. I don't need to hire somebody to help me with this. I don't need to use somebody else's expertise. I need to get creative about how I am going to make use of the spaces that I have available on the boat and the things that I have available on the boat to continue to build my strength. So that's going to mean using more creative body weight work. It's going to involve, getting some really dense bands. I do have for those of you who followed me on Instagram for a while, there's an anchor. It's a 25-pound anchor, and I use that, and it kind of swings, which adds this element of instability to the game. But to me, that is a bit of an obstacle. Like, I have an amazing life. I get to do this super, super fun thing where I get to go and live on a boat. And that makes it a little bit more challenging to be consistent with my strength training. And so I need to be creative about how I'm going to make that happen. So, again, you can pop it into the comments, or you can write it in your notebook, or you can just think about it and go back and revisit this idea later. But what are 3 obstacles for you that might get in the way of you achieving this thing that you want to be super, super proud of by the end of the year? And that might be a scheduling thing. It might be that you do a lot of caregiving for your grandchildren or your partner or a friend that takes a lot of your time. And how are you going to be consistent and all in on looking after your osteoporosis and your body if you have very limited time? Then we need to get creative about how you do your exercise. Bones really like those short, intense bursts, right? We've talked in various different places. We're not going to do it today because it's not inside the amount of time I have. But bone cells get bored really easily. Sure, late evening, nighttime, early morning. I am not a morning person, but I do kind of some of the low key stuff in the evening. That works for me. And you can absolutely do, 10 minutes of squats and lunges and sidestepping and side leg circles, and then leave it and carry on with your day. And then come back and do 10 minutes of 5 minutes of squats and lunges and side leg circles 4 hours later. You can pop in impact, hopping, jumping, heel bops. Those things are all incredibly effective at stimulating bone density, and they take virtually no time. So an obstacle could be limited time boxes. An obstacle might be a physical thing. Impact is great, but if you have plantar fasciitis, that's not so comfy. That might be an obstacle. So how are you going to manage getting your feet to feel better so that you can do impact, do strength training? Energy is low sometimes. Yeah, for sure. That's an obstacle. And so that actually leads really nicely into our next question. So the last question is, where do I need more structure and where do I need more freedom? And so I think for some of us, there is a sense that the only way we take care of our osteoporosis is if we're working out really hard. The idea of increments here and there. Yeah, exactly. And so if you are like, I didn't catch the name, but if you're a person whose energy ebbs and flows, if you're like me and the other person who's, the sleep hygiene is not so ideal, the sleep consistency is not great. If you're tired one day, give yourself the freedom to say, I am taking care of my bones today by working on some gentle joint mobility, because better joint mobility will allow you better strength training. It is okay to take a rest day. I tell my clients in the Move Smart method, when people are like, well, how much time should I be spending on the program? I'm like, well, I would like you to commit to 20 to 30 minutes a day most days, and you can break that into chunks so you can do more if you want. I'd like you to do an hour once a week, and I want you to take one day off. Day off. And it's not so much like, and you must go and lie on the sofa and watch Netflix, although you totally can do that if you want. But it's like, take a day off from being a person with osteoporosis. Take a day off from exercising because you feel you have to. Give yourself some freedom within your structure. And have the freedom to say, you guys can put in the comments, what would your favorite thing be to do? If I said to you, don't worry about having osteoporosis, don't worry about exercising for the sake of your bones or your bone density, what do you want to do? Do you want to lie on the sofa, drink iced tea, and read your book all day? Do you want to go on a 20-kilometer hike with friends because that's what gets your juices going? Do you want to go and ride your bike for 4 hours? Do you want to go and climb some trees? Do you want to go and play with your dog? Do you want to play with your grandchildren? Do you want to go for a swim? Do you want to go out for a fantastic, beautiful lunch with champagne? whatever floats your boat. I really want people to feel like it is okay to take some time to not be a person with osteoporosis, right? Have that mental load rest day. And if that happens to coincide with a low energy day, that's okay. Don't feel guilty about taking a down day. You're allowed. And I think most of us tend to fall a little bit more on one end of the spectrum than the other. So the question was, where do I need more structure and where do I need more freedom in my life when it comes to this sort of being all in on your osteoporosis? So I'm pretty good with the freedom part because I'm just like an airy fairy floaty type person. And I'm very clear on the idea that sometimes I will work harder and sometimes I will work less hard, and that I give myself the freedom to say I'm lifting heavy today and the freedom to say I'm lifting not so heavy because that's going to be what works for me. And today I'm not lifting at all because I just want to do some stretchy, rolly, feels good stuff. I'm pretty good with that. But structure is the thing I struggle with, and I need more structure. And so that's going to be going through this process of asking myself these 5 questions has really highlighted something that I already knew, but clearly need to continue to focus on, which is, you know what? I'm pretty good with my check marks. I'm happy with what I'm doing so far this year. I have increased my bone density. I increased my bone density before I started heavy lifting. I was using moderate lifting and whole body movement strategies like I do within the Move Smart method. I would like to continue to increase my bone density, but you'll notice I haven't mentioned that as a thing I would be proud of or as a thing that I'm really striving for. Because, you can't know if you're increasing your bone density until you have a DEXA. It's very hard to set that as a goal when you can't measure it except for in that moment, and you might have to wait 2 years to measure it. And also, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees about increasing bone density. It's something we would all love to have happen. But I can guarantee I can get stronger. I can get more capable. I can improve my balance. I can improve my joint mobility. I can improve my core strength and my upper back strength. I can get better at sailing a boat and doing archery and scuba diving and all the things that I love to do. So where do you fall? I saw a couple of you have been like, yes, me too, organizational structure. You are my team, my people. But pop it into the chat. I have 2 more minutes before I have to go. So are you a needs more structure person, or are you a needs more freedom person? Are you super focused on structure and routine, but you maybe need to give yourself a little flexibility and space? Let yourself have a day where you don't think about being a person with osteoporosis. Let yourself have, a busier or less busy day. Amazing. Bye. And, there's no right or wrong about this. Everybody falls on the spectrum somewhere. Need more structure. And for those of you who are perhaps on the need more freedom side of things, you may not even recognize it. So if you are a person who feels guilty when you don't do your workout, you might need a little more freedom. If you are a person who can't change your workout, you might need a little bit more freedom, need more structure. Yeah, it's hard to do things alone, for sure. The Move Smart method is online, so you can message me if you want. We could talk about it if you like. If you are a person who doesn't feel good if you don't check off every box on your workout list, you might benefit from giving yourself a little bit more freedom, more structure, but it's okay to rest. Yeah, the resting is important. Resting is important. We need to, when we're doing like a big strength training session, we need a day to rest for your muscles to recover and recuperate. Bones need a rest. frequently. So if we're doing impact, recent studies are showing that like the effectiveness of the impact wears off really quickly, and that even taking a 30-second break in between impacts can kind of revitalize the mechanosensitivity of your bone cells, the responsiveness of them. So if you, instead of doing like jump, 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 you could do a jump and then do a set of squats and then jump, and then do a set of overhead press and then jump, and then work on your push-ups, because somebody up there had 5 push-ups as their goal. So do 5 push-ups and then jump, right? Rest for the bone cells makes them more responsive. Rest for your muscles helps them to get stronger. Rest for your brain, and rest from the concept of being a person with osteoporosis does not mean that you're not all in. All right. And so on that note, I have a coaching call for the Move Smart clients in 8 minutes, and I need to go and get myself organized for that. So for those of you who are just joining, I will be sharing the recording as soon as this is processed and we're done. So you can go back and watch this on my feed. And I'm Allison Crouch of the Move Smart Method for Osteoporosis. And if you're curious about the program, just send me a message, send me a direct message and be like, hey, I saw your live. You said some things. I want to hear more about it. And we can chat. And otherwise, I will see you. And if you're on Facebook, same thing. You can either leave something in the comments for me, or you can message me, send me a direct message. All right. Mwah. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. And I'll see you next time. We will end this one.